Hi guys, Chox here and welcome back to In the Kitchen. Today I am going to show you how I make my world famous split pea soup. Actually, it's not world famous. It's just so freaking delicious and easy. You're going to be like, why was I buying this in a can this whole time? Alright, here we go. Ready for some nice warm comfort food deliciousness. So in my pea soup, I like to use yellow split peas, and that gives you a nice golden yellow soup, or you can do green split peas. What I like to do is I like to mix them both. I like the flavor assortment. It just adds a little bit of that depth to the pea soup. So what both of these packages say is to soak and rinse the peas first before you use them, which is good. It degasses them, and it also takes any of the husks off or anything like that, and it cleans them before you use them to eat. Okay, so here I have some split peas, and they have been soaking for, probably an hour and a half. I didn't exactly measure it because I just poured some in, rinsed them. There's just two of us, so I don't need to worry about making not enough. Maybe about a cup and a quarter of dry lentils, and then I covered them with water, and they've been soaking for about an hour and a half. I'm also going to add a good chunk of butter. I am going to slice up this onion and garlic very fine and stick it in the pot to give this soup some really nice flavor. And we're also going to season this soup with leftover bacon that we have from yesterday. So this is a very, very lean bacon. Put the butter in, it'll add to a nice creaminess for the soup. Those lentils look good enough to be rinsed. Just make sure that you've got a pot that's big enough. I always use a pot that I think is going to be one size too big. Okay, so basically what I'm going to do is put my butter in the pot. I'm going to slice up that onion. I'm going to slice up this garlic. And I'm going to slice up this bacon. We're also going to add a carrot. And I'm going to grate that up nice and fine, just to get some nice flavor and vitamins in this lovely soup that we're making. Oh, and color. It has such a nice golden color to it. Okay, so now that I have the onion and the garlic all chopped up and that carrot grated, I am going to get my pot ready, set up on the elements, to pop those in and simmer them for a little while. Alright, so I have my elements set up, and in my pot I have that nice square of butter I showed you earlier, and we're just going to put this over, I'm going to say medium heat, even though I don't think this little range here knows what medium is. Keep your handle in for safety. I'm going to add the garlic and the onion and that really nice carrot that we just grated up. Extra flavor, tons of color, lots of vitamins. It's coming on winter, so let's get those antibacterial things working for us in our favor. So as that melts down, I am just going to quickly chop up this bacon. Bacon. Set that in here after this cooks down a little bit. Some sexy melting butter right there. Tell you what. Yeah, so I knew I was making pea soup today last night, so I did purposely save the fattiest pieces of bacon so I'd have that extra flavor in there. So that's nice and hot and the butter's all melted, so I'm just going to turn this down a little bit. Because you just want this over a low heat to cook all that goodness down. And I think I'm going to cover it up. Let it condensate a little bit of moisture in there to help work that down a bit. And I'll check on it in just a minute. Okay, so it's been a few minutes, and I was starting to smell this warm goodness of like butter and onions. That's when you should check on it, because you don't want things to burn. I'm going to cover this back up again while I finish chopping up my bacon. Alright, it's been a couple more minutes. Oh, that's looking really good. Now, personally, I like these to be almost non-existent when I'm eating my pea soup. So I'm going to let this, add a little bit of water, I think, and then let this simmer down a bit. There we go. That'll be enough to cook them down. And if I need to, I can just take my hand blender and shoot right in the middle of that and cream it out a little bit. So we've got the bacon chopped, and while we're waiting on this, let's go to the sink and I'll show you rinsing the peas. Okay, so this pot of beautifulness has been simmering here for probably about 15 minutes, making the house smell all good and delicious. We're just gonna give it a stir. I think I'm happy with these right now because they're pretty translucent, the onions there. Ooh, hot, 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 don't touch it. And they look like they're gonna break down nicely as this soup simmers. That's a tongue twister. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and deposit all this good baconness. All this good baconness is going into my pot. Get in there, bacon. Who has leftover bacon? We do. And let this bacon stir in here and warm up. Let the fat from that finish flavoring up these onions before I add the peas and the water, and then we're pretty much done. So back in a few minutes, let this heat up again before we add our other ingredients. Okay, so everything is now warmed up, and at this point I'm gonna add some fresh cracked black pepper, maybe a little bit of paprika, just for some nice coloring. And you'll notice most of the onion in here has already dissolved because we cut it nice and small. Now the rest of the vegetable in here is just gonna simmer out as we simmer our soup after we add the peas. And the bacon is going to give us a bit of texture in there that's just, it's really nice. It's like ham. You can use ham, you can use bacon, you can use no meat if you like no meat. So now what I'm going to do is just pour in those peas that I had soaking. Get them all in the pot there. Give this a stir to see where your liquid level and your peas are at. After letting them soak, they shouldn't get too much bigger, but what should happen is they should break down a little bit as they're cooking, and it'll make a nice creamy soup for you. I'm just gonna mix all this in, get it all incorporated there. I'm gonna need more water than this, so I'm just gonna add some more water, cover up everything in there, make sure it's covered. Okay, that looks really good. Some bacon's gonna float to the top or whatever, but that's no big deal. And I'm gonna turn this up just to bring it to a boil and then let it simmer back down and stir it often because the split peas, they will stick to the bottom. Stir it often, and I'll check back with you after this gets to a rolling simmer. Alright, so here we go. This soup, I've added the peas and now it's at a nice rolling boil. So what happens now is I'm going to turn this down and just let it gently simmer. Not such a high temperature. Let these peas break down and make this soup all creamy. So I'm going to let this simmer probably for about 45 minutes before I show you again. Give it a stir a couple of times so that the peas don't stick to the bottom. We'll turn it down so we don't burn them. We'll break these peas down a little bit, and before you know it, we'll be eating a delicious dinner. Okay, so here we are. It's been probably 45 minutes-ish. Let's go have a look at this. Oh, yeah. Oh, see, now that's thickening up nicely. With this pea soup and it's simmering, you want to make sure that everything in the pot is covered with liquid. You don't want that liquid to get lower than your contents in there. And you want to keep it busy so it breaks down those peas and makes a nice creamy soup for you. So we've probably got about another hour on this, and it should be nice and creamy. Give it a stir like every so often and add liquid as you need it. Like, there's no specific amount of water that you need to add to this. It's just something you need to pay attention to, and when your liquid level gets too low, then you need to add some more. Smelling wonderful. Still don't want to taste it, but I put in some good seasonings before this, and the bacon, it's nice and salty. So I don't like adding salt to this until the end because it all depends on how salty that bacon is. Look at that nice yellow golden color. These are cooking down nicely, and the bacon is still staying nice and chunky. My texture in this soup is the bacon, so it holds its shape very well and adds a really nice flavor. So here we go, another 45 minutes, and I'll show you what it's like. I just checked on this and I thought I'd share this with you. I need to add more liquid because that's about the consistency I want my finished product to be, and it still has to cook. I went to stir this and I noticed it's very thick and starting to stick to the bottom. So we don't want that to happen. Oh, need to add some water. It's just too thick of a consistency to keep cooking right now. So that it's kind of sticking down there. Alright, so there we go. I've added a little bit more water. We're going to let this simmer a little bit more. You can see that those peas are breaking down nicely, making a nice creamy base. Okay, so this has been simmering for a bit, and you can see that there's just little tiny pieces of pea left in there. This is nice and creamy looking. So I'm going to leave the lid off and let it simmer down just a little bit more and thicken up. So when the steam evaporates off of that, it'll thicken the soup down below. Just want to make sure you stir it and make sure it doesn't stick to the bottom. It feels like these peas are pretty cooked, and this bacon was already pre-cooked. So I guess if you were really hungry at any point, this would be ready to eat. But I like my pea soup nice and thick, so we're going to simmer this down just a little bit more. Oh, look at that. Alright, so this has been simmering about 45 minutes. That is a nice thick and creamy soup. Most of the chunks in there that you see are now the bacon. So those onions and the garlic cooked down nicely, and those peas are nice and soft. Everything's cooked down. It looks like a nice consistency. Yeah, at this point it is ready to put in a bowl and serve with whatever you have on hand. So you can turn off the heat and leave it at this point, or you can keep it simmering, add liquid if it gets too thick, or if you want your soup even thicker, just let it go. Oh man, this is smelling so delicious. The thing with this soup and using bacon or ham is it makes it salty, so don't add salt until the very end. Otherwise, you'll end up with a very salty soup. Alright guys, so there we have it. A lovely bowl of homemade split pea soup. So easy. It's kind of like a set it and forget it, but stir it every 10 minutes sort of thing. Great with crackers, or if you have a ciabatta bun, or garlic toast, or by itself. I like mine sprinkled with some fresh ground pepper and some sea salt on there. You can have it plain if you like. This soup is so versatile and so good. It just warms you to the bone on a nice, crisp first snow day. Alright guys, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time in the kitchen. It's time for me to go and have some dinner. Bye.